Well, welcome to the Violet Teacher Seminar. Hey, hi, hello, it's me, I'm Violet. Today's topic is the history of banned books, media literacy, and the inherent politics of reading. Should you get your fidgets? Yeah, go get your fidgets. Banned books in today's society are as popular as ever. But has it always been that way? Unfortunately, not much has changed in 400 years since North America's first banned book. Let's head back to Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1624 for a deeper understanding. Thomas Morton, an English businessman, arrived in Massachusetts with the Puritans, but he wasn't exactly on board with the strict and pious society they had hoped to build for themselves. Within just a few short years, Morton established his own unrecognized offshoot of the Plymouth colony in what is now the town of Quincy, Massachusetts, the birthplace of Presidents John Adams and John Quincy Adams. He revived forbidden old world customs, faced off with a Puritan militia determined to quash his pagan festivals, and wound up in exile. He eventually sued and got a book deal out of the whole affair. Published in 1637, his New English Canon mounted a harsh and heretical critique of Puritan customs and power structures that went far beyond what most New English settlers could accept. So they banned it, making it likely the first book explicitly banned in what is now the United States. The Puritans' move across the pond was motivated by both religion and commerce, but Morton was there only for the latter reason, as one of the owners of the Wollaston Company. He loved what he saw of his new surroundings, later writing that Massachusetts was the masterpiece of nature. His business partner, slave-owning Richard Wollaston, moved south to Virginia to expand the company's business, but Morton was already deeply attached to the land in a way his more religious neighbors likely couldn't understand. He was extremely responsive to the natural world and had very friendly relations with the indigenous peoples. Oh, who's coming on in? Nerd, thank you so much for 23 months, tier 2, baby. I'm sorry that Thomas Morton is blocking that. I appreciate you so much. Welcome on back, my love. I hope you're having the best day. Hi, Ghoul. Hi, Frog. Y'all, if you're just coming in, we're learning about banned books. Let me see. He was extremely responsive to the natural world, and he had very friendly relations with the indigenous peoples. In contrast, the Puritans took the opposite stance, that the natural world was a howling wilderness, and the indigenous people were wild men who needed to be suppressed. After Wollaston left, Morton enlisted the help of some brave recruits, both English and native, to establish the break-off settlement of Marie Mount, also known as Marymount, preserved today in the Quincy neighborhood and park of the same name. Morton essentially asked his neighbors, what if we just throw Wollaston out and start our own utopian colony based on Plato's Republic and also as a society of the indigenous peoples? The Puritan authorities didn't see Marymount as a freewheeling annoyance. They saw an existential threat. The problem wasn't only that Morton was taking goods and commerce away from Plymouth, but that he was giving that business to the indigenous peoples, including trading guns to the Algonquins. With Plymouth's monopoly dissolved and its perceived enemies armed, Morton had perhaps done more than anyone else to undermine the Puritan project in Massachusetts. Worse yet, in the words of Plymouth's governor William Bradford, Morton condoned dancing and frisking together with the indigenous peoples, activities that were already banned. It was basically an early colonial version of Footloose. Governor Bradford nicknamed Morton the Lord of Misrule, and Morton wore it as a badge of honor. Hi, Nikita. How are you doing? Welcome on in. Thanks, Dreadful. Thanks, y'all. No frisking. Can you believe it? There could be no greater symbol of such misrule than Morton's maypole. Put a 1 in the chat if you ever saw Midsummer by Ari Aster. Reaching 80 feet into the air, the structure conjured all the vile vices of Merry England that the Puritans had hoped to leave behind. Throughout medieval Europe, maypoles had been a popular installation for May Day or Pentecost or Midsummer in some regions, encouraging human fertility as the land itself sprung up from winter. Now, that was a tradition that Morton could get behind, and he gladly called upon the residents of Marymount to drink, dance, and frolic around the pole. The establishment of Marymount had been a provocation, but Morton's May Day celebrations meant war. During the 1628 festivities, a Puritan militia led by Miles Standish invaded Marymount and chopped down the maypole. The incident later inspired Nathaniel Hawthorne's short story, The Maypole of Marymount, first published in 1832. Morton was tried for supplying arms to the natives and expelled to an island off the coast of New Hampshire to be left for dead. Somehow he managed to hitch passage on a ship back to England, where he sued the Massachusetts Bay Company. The trial provided him with the basis for his book, much of which was composed at London's Mermaid Tavern with a little help from his friends, including famed poet and playwright Ben Jonson. After publishing the book, Morton braved a venture back to his beloved Massachusetts, only to be turned right back around upon arrival. He tried to cross the Atlantic once again in 1643, and this time was exiled to Maine, where he died. His maypole may have been chopped down and his book banned, but Morton's legacy lives on in Quincy and in banned books today. Hi, Bear Witch. Welcome on in. I need a minute. We need water. I would also like to be the Lord of Misrule. Wait, does that make me even worse of a cult leader? Even 400 years ago, deviating from the status quo and highlighting the trials and tribulations of the others in literature was deemed unacceptable. There are many books now that are banned in towns and districts all across the United States that willingly choose to silence women's voices, trans voices, black voices, and more. It is not the fear of the unknown. It is not that people fear the unknown, but they fear knowledge, they fear change. They fear losing their own power. Reading is not a mirror, but a window into the lives, fictional or not, of others. If you are able to put yourselves into their shoes, you will have more sympathy and empathy for their lives and their rights. And who would benefit the least from not banning books? Those that are currently in power. However, banning books with diverse topics is not the only way we're losing knowledge and intellect. Even the bluest states do not always have the highest literacy rates because of the lack of media literacy. This is a big buzzword that has entered political discussions in the last few years. But what exactly does it mean? Media literacy is the ability to identify different types of media and understand the messages they are sending. Specifically, media literacy helps people of all ages, but especially children, learn to think critically. As kids evaluate media, they decide whether the messages make sense, why certain information was included, what wasn't included, and what the key ideas are. They learn to use examples to support their opinions. Then they can make up their own minds about the information based on knowledge they already have. If I were to say to you, chat, the sky is green, how would you respond? What would you say to me right now? How would you deduce what I'm saying to you is true or false? You can respond in chat. No, they do not, Willie. They do not. Absolutely not. Hi, North. Hi, honey. Hi, Irish. Saurus? No, that's true. Colorblind? Look up. Look at the sky. Please provide me the drugs you were on. Okay, so you learn to think critically. You learn to look up. You learned what colors meant in school. At your core, you know what I'm telling you is wrong. That is the basis of media literacy. Moving on, children become a smart consumer of products and information. Media literacy helps kids learn how to determine whether something is credible. It also helps them determine the persuasive intent of advertising and resist the techniques marketers use to sell products. They can recognize point of view. Every creator has a perspective. Identifying the author's point of view helps kids appreciate different perspectives. It also helps put information in the context of what they already know or think they know. Hi, Dr. Cat. Hello. They create media responsibility. Recognizing your own point of view, saying what you want to say and how you want to say it, and understanding that your messages have impact is key to effective communication. They identify the role of media in our culture, from celebrity gossip to magazine covers to memes. Media is telling us something, shaping our understanding of the world and even compelling us to act or think in certain ways. They understand the author's goal. What does the author want you to take away from a piece of media? Is it purely performative? Is it trying to change your mind? Or is it introducing you to new ideas you've never heard of? When kids understand what type of influence something has, they can make informed choices. I'm going to give you all a media literacy test in here right now. Put a 1 in the chat if you have seen the movie Titanic. And if you have, do you believe that Jack and Rose should have been able to fit on that door? Why or why not? Tell me. Tell me. But I never checked the source. Bear Witch, please. Thanks, Caitlin. Right, is there a tornado coming soon? What's the weather like? Yup. You've not? I'm glad you brought that up, Silly. I'm going to talk about that. You're saying, no, they couldn't have fit on the door. They could, but it wouldn't float. You watched the Mythbusters episode, so you'd seen that they could both be on there, but they would have had to put something underneath for the buoyancy. Okay. Okay. Definitely wouldn't have worked. Okay. Physically, in the movie, they both did try to fit on that door, but only Rose was able to stay on it by herself so it would not sink. Mythbusters did an episode on the door and found they could both have stayed on it. But let's take away the door for a minute. Let's look at the greater plot of Titanic. What happens to Rose at the end of the movie? She leaves her wealthy family behind, opting instead to live an exciting life. Why? Because Jack Dawson had to die. Didn't matter if it was him being chained on the boat or dying in the water in order for Rose to live. And I mean truly live. Jack had to die. She rode horses. She spit like a girl. She completely dissolved her feminine stereotypes and familial chains. He was her manic pixie dream boy. If you look at interviews with director James Cameron, he is so agitated at this question over 25 years later because that is not the point. And that is media literacy. Mic drop. Banned books and media literacy go hand in hand because even if books get banned, would you be able to understand what was in them in the first place? If you are not taught how to think critically and correctly, consume media, and question your sources, how are you supposed to know what to believe or what or whom to trust? You are not. You are compliant. And therein lies the politics of reading. From fairy smut to Toni Morrison and R.L. Stine, reading helps to develop empathy and foster connection with perspective taking. It is a fundamental skill that opens doors to knowledge, imagination, and personal growth. From the moment we pick up our first book, reading becomes an integral part of our lives, shaping our thoughts and understanding of the world around us. The importance of reading in life cannot be overstated. It is a multifaceted activity that enriches our minds, broadens our horizons, and enhances our quality of life. We must continue to fight back against book bans, encourage media literacy in our schools and our homes, and continue to uplift suppressed voices who need our support. Thank you for coming to my seminar today. Does anybody have any questions? Anything that they wanted to bring up? Do you have a question about anything I told to you? Did you know about the first banned book in North America? I ended up reading a